To episode 3 of Tara Time, where I actually have a real life human with me today. If you haven't seen this before, every Thursday at 12 o'clock UK time, I bring a wonderful guest to you where we talk about all things leadership, all things business, and of course, all things Tara. And we started the series off very intimately with my mum and then my business coach. And so I thought, what better way to continue the fun than bringing on my husband, Tom, who is also, as of a few months ago, the COO at Thomas Brevitt Coaching. So, do you want to quickly introduce yourself?
Yeah, I think on the social media post you put me down as Thomas. So
Thomas, always.
You and my mum are the only people that call me Thomas, or maybe Thomasina from your mum.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am the COO. I joined Tara, must have been October last year, something like that, to come and facilitate and help on the operational side of things. So yeah, but it's going good. It's going good.
So one of the things we get asked the most, and I thought we'll just dig right into it.
Yep.
And also we'll do a Q&A at the end of this if there's any questions. So if you have any questions, pop them in the comments, and I'm seeing some things come up now on StreamYard. Hey Danielle, hey Gemma. So pop any questions that you have, any burning questions that you have in there, and we will try and answer them at the end if we can. So what the first thing that most people ask is, what is it actually like working as a husband and wife, doing everything together, working in the business together, living together, all of that. So I thought, I don't know, dangerously, or whether I'm going to regret it or not, to have a little talk about what are the best things and the worst things about working together. Let's start with the best, shall we?
Yeah.
You go. What do you think the best thing about working together is?
I think it kind of gives you, I think it's really easy because of what happened with COVID, and everyone was kind of working from home. And when we were living in Dubai, we were working from home. So I got to see a lot of what kind of like you did as a job. Mm-hmm. But I had zero influence around it. So if there was ever a problem around where you'd come home from work and you'd have a moan and things like that, I couldn't do anything about it. Whereas now I feel like I suppose it's an opportunity that I can help, and
that is you all over them.
Improve as much as possible, whether that's you or the business. So
yeah, that's it for me. Like, and especially when we started the business, so when you start the entrepreneurship journey, the whole thing is an unknown for anybody, I think, when you've not done it before. And for me, like trying to explain things to you, and you just being like, you're there for me, you're there to support, but you don't actually know. You can't actually come up with a solution because you're not in it. Whereas now you're in it, you're like, okay, well now this gets solved way faster, because not only can you support me emotionally, you can also say, okay, but what about if we just do this too?
Yeah.
So it's like an actual solution, and things just move faster.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's probably definitely the one for me. And also one of the main reasons that Tom came into the business, and at the time Tom had his own business, he was doing his own thing, but I was about to need to outsource a lot of the stuff that I was doing. The business was growing and I was struggling to have the time to do everything. And it was like, okay, well, I've got somebody here with a skill set. And I'm going to ask him if he'll come and he'll join, fully expecting you to say no. I was like, there is no way on earth he's going to say yes to this. It's going to be his worst nightmare to try and work with me. Anybody who's worked with me in the past or knows me at all knows that I am not an easy person to work with or to please, and I have certain standards, and I suppose you've dealt with that in life in general. So
well, I think there's been a lot of, we've been together for 17 years, and I think there's been times where we've worked together in something to do with life. For example, moving. Obviously, we've moved around a lot.
A lot.
When we first moved in together in 2009, I think I referred to you as Hitler.
It's not very nice.
Because of your project management style of how you wanted things to be moved. And it was like, I think I vowed then I'd never ever work with you. So something must have changed in between then and now. So
yeah, I don't know. It just works. And I think the thing is, if he can, I've just seen Daniel saying, if he can live with you, he can work with you. It turns out that is true. I thought there were two very different things. But I think the other thing is when we set it out, when we started to do it in right at the beginning, we said, this is only going to work if we have really strong boundaries, if we do X, Y, Z. Like, we set out the expectations from the beginning, didn't we, about whether it was going to, like, how it was going to work. But I genuinely was surprised. And we'll come on to that, I think, in a minute, about you actually decide, like, how you decided to say yes and why, why we did it. But yeah, working together, definitely the best things are, well, for me, the best things are that you being able to spot, just seeing these comments. If I've got a spreadsheet, I've always got a spreadsheet. But actually what's hilarious is somebody else has now taken over being head of spreadsheets. Yeah. And I can barely fart without there being a spreadsheet for telling me when I can fart, when I can move or anything. Like, we're coming back to the UK in and Europe in May. And Tom has every single day. There's every single day is mapped out on the spreadsheet.
I think it's also because we're very fortunate to have amazing friends and family that want to see us, and it's for the last. This is the first time in 7 years where we're not coming back for a very rushed 2 to 3 weeks, and I think it's important, obviously, for that to be very organized, so we get to see the people that we've not really seen properly for 7 years. So, but yeah, I have taken on, I suppose, the
head of spreadsheets.
Yeah, which is fun. Honestly, it's so fun.
It's the things that you do the spreadsheets for that get me, but they've become quite popular. Like, they're now shared. So, like, when we go home, it's like, oh, my mum's saying, can we have access so we know what people are doing and when people are doing it? So, I think. Head of spreadsheets, you've certainly stepped up to that role. So, good things. We've got being able to help. We've got, what else have we got? You taking over head of spreadsheets. That's a good thing to work together.
I think it's like, seeing where we can grow a business together. I think that's quite important. I think it's really easy after starting the business. October 2021, that's when officially we launched. I think we've seen that it is challenging. I'm not going to kind of sugarcoat it. It is hard, but I think at the same time it's quite rewarding that we get to work together and we get to see a business grow that we've developed and made changes to.
Well, we get to build it to what we want it to be.
Yeah. And the biggest thing is the type of life that we're living now is allowing us to do that, and it's giving us the freedom to live wherever we want, and that's the whole point of, I suppose, for us to have a business.
Yeah. Okay. What's the worst? Go on, do your worst. What's the worst thing about working together? Or with me? Go on. I can take it. I've got my big girl pants on.
I think at some point in the near future, I'm going to have to change my name because my full name is Thomas Leonard Brevitt. I think I'm going to have to cut out the Leonard and change it to Can You Just? So Thomas, Can You Just Brevitt? Because I feel like we have an endless list of things. We just, every day we've got a system that tells basically that we do, it's like a task system. So you tick off what you've done. I could have done my day, and I've caught up with other things, and then I blink and there's 10 more things there, and I'm thinking, where does these come from? Why can't
we agreed, didn't we?
Yeah.
That as long if it's like we don't verbally say, can you do this or can you do that? Everything has to go in here because it prevents ever that. Well, I asked you to do that, There's no chance we can have that. So now my argument is, well, I put it in the system. You didn't say when I could put it in. You just said to make sure it's in there.
I can only imagine, like, it's if this TaraBrevitt.com was a huge enterprise, and
do you mean when?
Yeah, sorry, when it's a huge enterprise, but we have multiple employees working for you, and say they're working 9 till 5, like in a normal job and stuff like that. At 4:59, they'll get another 20 tasks to do. And I was thinking, it happened yesterday.
Yeah,
and I was just like, where have these things come from? I was hoping to finish early, which, again, is just not a thing. So
well, that's all right. That's gentle. I can have that. That's true. Yeah.
So when Tom, can you just Brevitt?
Yeah.
So just to.
That's the okay.
That's the worst.
If that's the worst.
I think so. Yeah. I'll be honest. It's being able to just work wherever. So how many times have we've been working and we literally crawl out of bed straight into work, which is not a great work practice. Don't get me wrong, but at the same time, that could be at 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 7 a.m., whatever time it is. It doesn't really matter. But yeah, I think that is probably the worst thing at the moment. I can't think of anything else that is like detrimental to effectively.
Yeah, and do you know what? One thing that I thought would be negative, like when we have a lot of heated discussions about business decisions, and they get heated. Like, they genuinely get heated. But it's okay. Like, that is what I thought would be awful. But it's like, we have this understanding that we know it's going to get like that. We know that we need to communicate. And if somebody steps over the mark, it's like, okay, we're both big enough and ugly enough to apologize. And it's because we're both, it's so important to us both that it does get like that. And we disagree on loads of things of how things should be done, for sure. Like, we disagree in it. And one thing that was important for me, and it's okay to say this, but then to practice it is another thing, is you at the beginning, you used to say, well, I don't know, it's your business, you decide. Yeah. And I was like, well, it's not my business. I decide. It's our business. We decide. And that's the thing. Like, it's our business. We have to decide. And it took you a little time to shift away from that. And I was a bit hurt the first time that you said that, because I was like, I thought it was clear that this was our thing. It's not mine and yours.
I think also because when you asked me in, it was either September or October to come and join. I didn't formally join until probably December and January, because I was closing my stuff out at the same time. And I think because of that, it was still in like the back of my mind. I was like, well, it's still Tara's stuff. Tara's baby. And you'd kind of developed it. And yeah, we do have heated discussions. And there's a good question there from Danielle. Like, how do you have a heated discussion at 4:59 and then go for dinner at 6? I don't know. You just kind of do. Like, because nothing's going to change. Like, and our experience before, I suppose our career and life experience that we've had before is totally different. So we both bring skills that either one of us doesn't have. We also have skills that can be a little bit similar. Yeah. So it's kind of trying to develop the sweet spot of how we can work efficiently. Don't get me wrong, at 6 p.m. or at 5:59 when you're going for dinner, you're like still kind of chuntering away. But I don't know, I made a joke to one of my friends a couple of days ago. And I was like, I'd asked Tom, I think maybe, I don't know if it was when I'd asked you to do all the account stuff, or it was something else. I'd asked him to do a really shit job, which is a theme. It's a general theme that you've accepted. All of the shit jobs Tom gets. And one of those, I think, was, I think it was doing the accounts or something like that. And I was speaking to my friend, and I'd left it all till the last minute, and I chucked it at him, and like I had hands down, and he was like, great, thanks for this. Or maybe we'd actually had a heated discussion about something. And anyway, I was talking to my friend, and I was like, oh, like this, and I think Tom is just pissed off at me. Like, and I get it, he deserves to be pissed off at me, and whatever. And she was like, yeah, I've had that the same at work with somebody, and it's really frustrating and it's awkward. I'm like, yeah, well, you get to walk home, you get to go home after that, and doesn't have to impact your sex life. I've like, this guy, like, you again,
Like just looking at me like it's you. That same knobhead who was a dick earlier at work is now here in my bed. So it's like, but you just do. I don't know. You just do.
I think also because I've always had I suppose a bit of a work philosophy is that I try and not let work affect me at all. Like it's when I was working in, I suppose, the corporate world, I left work and that was it. If I had to do a little bit of work at home, fine. But at a certain point, like I try to finish work normally between 7:30 and 8 now because we're just busy, and I know
we don't
change.
start till later either.
No,
like we're in Argentina at the moment, so most days we don't start work really till 10 o'clock.
No.
Like we don't start before 10, so we kind of do a 10 till 7 or 10 till 8.
Yeah, and so then at 8 o'clock I'd make sure that laptop's closed, that's it. I don't really want to talk about work like for the rest of the day. If we have to, then we would.
Yeah.
But I think also because how we work, we've been living in these apartments that are quite small, and we work at the same table. Like we're literally 2 feet away from each other at like any one time during the day. So we get to see obviously the problems. So when it comes to finishing work, I don't feel like we've got problems after it. That kind of makes sense.
And we also have especially when we go on holiday. So we have like holiday boundary of we don't talk about, this is the space where we don't talk about work. We actually have to set that, like, or we go out for dinner, we will not talk like I don't want to talk anything about work tonight. And it's hard because it's like everything that we do. Yeah. And we always also make the joke of like, what else we need to talk about? It's what we've been doing all day together. Like, yeah. And that's where it's really, really important for us to have, like, even though we're digital nomading and moving from one place to the next place, to actually make friends, because you can't just have each other and nobody else with nothing else to talk about.
Yeah,
like,
because I think we'll come on to that a little when we talk about maybe the travel and international life, but we're very fortunate to have to have met some fantastic people in Argentina. We're currently living in 2 absolute legends apartment at the moment, just for a couple of weeks. And I think from that, because we're able to, I suppose, share our experiences with them and our daily, and it's just nice having a conversation with other people. Digital nomading's hard.
It's not all the cocktails and the sunshine and all of that. It is like, it's hard. The amount of times when I jump on a call with my clients and they're like, are you somewhere different again? Have you moved again? That is awful. Like, how many times do you pack suitcases and all that kind of stuff? It's not easy, but it's a choice that we've made, and it's the right choice for us, and we enjoy it, and we probably wouldn't have it any other way. But it isn't easy. And actually part of that as well as interesting is that work is classed as Tom's work. Like, I would have to be very clear about that. The digital nomad life has so much extra life admin. Yeah. Whether we're shipping the dog somewhere, whether we're getting visas sorted, whether we're finding new apartments, that's like a part-time job in itself, isn't it?
Well, yes and no. I think because this is we're coming up to the first year that we've done it. So we started officially in April of last year. And as long as you're organized, like, everywhere's pretty much the same place. Like, it's like the same deal. You've got to find, before you go, obviously check your visa situation. You find somewhere to live, and it's, once you've kind of ticked off like the small things, okay, well, everything else kind of will just fall into place eventually.
But I don't have the brain. The problem is I don't have the brain capacity to deal with it. Like you do, and it does take time though. Like, it takes time.
Finding somewhere to live is, I think it's been challenging here specifically, just because you want to have every detail. Like, if it was in your, say, forever home, and you want to make sure that it's got enough, for example, plates, more than 3 plates, which is something we've found in a lot of the apartments. They don't have more than 3 plates. So I think you just have to kind of give up a few things to make sure that the main things are there. And we've started to build that list now to say that, right.
But that's, again, it's a job. It's another job that needs doing. And it's like, we have to say, this is part of work. Like, this is not something that you then have to do after work, because it's just something that becomes part of, like, the logistics of this life and this business that we've built. So, like, some mornings you'll be like, I am spending half a day looking for apartments, or I'm spending half a day doing the dog's paperwork or the visas or the whatever. It becomes part of life. But I think think it's worth it. Okay, let's talk about the decision. Like we touched on it a bit earlier.
Yeah.
So when I asked Tom to join the business, I genuinely thought he was going to say no. I was like, there's no way he's going to go for this. He's going to think he's not going to want to, work with me, or, us be doing the same thing all the time, or putting all of our eggs in one basket, or whatever it is. I just convinced myself that he was going to say no. But you said yes, literally immediately.
Yeah.
What drove that decision for you?
I think because we were obviously two separate businesses, and I felt like we were doing the same. We were actually doubling up on work. Mm-hmm. That's what I felt like. I felt like there was a lot of things operationally, and I think if anyone has the opportunity to start their own business, I know like Chris Wood is just come on, and Danielle and all the other people that kind of commented that have started their own businesses. It's really hard. Like it's something that we're trying to figure out. If something changes like on Instagram or the algorithms on social media, things like that. So we're just trying to learn those things. And I felt like we were doing it twice. And I think that the side of the business, or your business originally, was doing a bit better than mine. And I had to kind of put like a bit of a sensible cap on and go, there's no point in having two businesses that are working very, very, very hard. And we're not reaching the financial goals and the lifestyle goals that we actually want. And there's nothing to say in a few years' time that I would look to restart my business. But at the same time, I think it just kind of made sense.
What was interesting for me is all of the stuff in your business that you hated doing in your business.
Yeah.
You do very. I don't know if it's a stretch to say you enjoy doing, but you do very well. And actually, no, it's not a stretch, because you said it to me. You're like, I like doing these types of things.
Yeah.
And we had this conversation. I was like, but when it was your business, you hated it. And that is like, it clicked for me. Is that you're naturally the person who wants to look after other people, help other people, support other people. Like that is Tom's natural best place in the world. So suddenly when it was like the back end marketing stuff that he hated doing and like procrastinated so badly on in your own business, when it came to doing it for mine, he was shit hot and on it straight away. And I was like, that's weird. Oh no, it's not. Of course it's because he's doing it for me. He's doing it for somebody else.
Yeah. I think there's still aspects that I just hate doing.
Oh yeah.
Like
what do you hate the most?
Social media posts. Actually creating social media posts.
What do you mean, scheduling them out?
No, I don't mind that. That's fine.
You meant
actually
writing
like them. Going on to like the digital side of social media. Like I just cannot get my head around it. Just because I think I don't know, maybe it's a guy thing. Maybe because it's like, oh, it's got to be perfect. Like, and I'm like, nah, that'll do. Like, and so I just don't like that side of things. But if if like we're talking like the task list or something like that we need to do, I just love it. Like you get on the system we've got, it's called Asana, and when you tick off to say it's been complete, you get a little unicorn that comes across your screen.
I love the unicorn. I absolutely love the unicorn. But the unicorn is sporadic. It's like not every task. It's like, and you don't know when it's going to come, or when it comes, you're like, oh, the unicorn.
Yeah, I think that's what makes you do more tasks.
Oh no, 100%. They've gamified it, haven't they? And that's really nice. But there's some stuff like that you just like, I like doing this. Like, and I'm like, that's my worst thing as well to do. Like,
yeah, I quite like I suppose like the back end stuff of social media, like where I'm not actually creating it, but I'm scheduling the posts. Like for those that don't know, you can schedule posts, because I can guarantee there's people watching that don't have their own business and that type of thing. And they'll see a post come at, I don't know, a really random time. It'll be like 4 a.m. here, and it's being posted at say 8 a.m. in the UK or wherever. And they're like, oh, why is that person awake? No, we're not.
No, that's the stuff actually that you realise that the whole world of social media, I think specifically, was an eye opener. When you start to run a business on one versus as being a user, it's a whole different world that you don't even know about, and it's insane.
I think people, like my perception of social media before, especially like on Instagram, was, oh, you put a hashtag down and that's a guaranteed person, or you've got 700 and whatever followers on your personal account, so they're definitely going to be customers,
or they're gonna see it even.
Yeah, and it's like it doesn't work like that. It's like needs to be targeted marketing. That's it, I suppose, the best way to put it.
Okay, so for you, it just made sense.
Yeah, it just made sense.
It just made sense. And did you have any like doubts or concerns or fears about joining?
No, in terms of like doubts, I think because of how I've seen your career, I've always been quite proud of how you like, even when you're at university. So, and you're doing your project management final year, and you had to do your major projects in your dissertation and stuff like that. You just got it done. Like, and so I never had any worries in terms of that, and I knew that it was going to be hard in terms of working together. But I think because of how we set certain boundaries, we were able to say, that's a boundary for work, that's a boundary for life, that's a boundary for growth and things like that. And I think, like I say, with it making sense for me, it was like, well, yeah, it's always going to be a little bit difficult. And I think when you go through those harder periods, especially when you're working, it's for the better more than anything. You do get through it. Like, and you could have. I when we were in Peru, for example, I really struggled in Peru. Like, I would put that down as one of, like, mentally struggled, because I'd left my corporate job, moved to a country that I didn't speak the language and things like that. So I really struggled to kind of integrate myself and be a part of, I suppose, being in Peru. And don't get me wrong, it was lovely, and we met some fantastic people, and we got to travel to see some amazing things. But I would put that down, that year, as a really difficult period of my life, because I thought, well, surely these things will get better. And then when we kind of started the businesses and things like that, I saw what you were doing and saw how well it was going. And so, yeah, it just, for me, when you asked me, I was like, well, yeah, that kind of makes sense to go and do that. And the skill sets that I have that would help you and help the business grow.
Yeah. No, it was definitely the best decision. I don't actually, like, now when I look at it, I'm like, I don't know how I functioned without it. And I wouldn't have had the growth that we've had without, like, it wouldn't have been possible. So, yeah, I think there's a lesson in there as well. Like, I nearly didn't ask you. Like, just ask the fucking question, right? Like, the worst somebody's going to say is no, or you're going to get rejected, or this applies to anything. Like, if you think the answer is going to be no for something, whatever it is, like, whether it's asking for more money at work, or asking for a different role, or, you know, asking for an investment in your business, or asking somebody to join your team. If you think the answer is going to be no and that's deterring you, just do it anyway. Like, just absolutely do it anyway.
Just answer a question. Do you have boundaries and understanding of when work is work and personal life is life? Yeah, definitely. So one thing that I've always had I love socializing. Like, I love meeting new people. I love, like, whereas Tara, it's not a thing for Tara. Tara doesn't.
I find a couple of friends and then that's it. Like, and I don't like big groups and I don't like new people.
So I try to, my boundaries there are, right, that's life. And we're going to work on having a calendar where in your calendar, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to spend the time together. We're going to make sure that you're actually planning your time together. That's one thing. And it sounds really daft, but I said it to your mum, actually, about 6 months ago. And I can't remember what it was, but she was just crazy busy with the retreat stuff. And I said to her, I was like, write down the things that you love the most doing with Dave. And so then she did. And I was like, just put them into a calendar. Like, literally just put, right, Saturday, we're going to go for a big dog walk.
Yeah.
Or the next month, we're going to go down to Norfolk or something like that. And I think it's actually planning what you're doing.
Yeah, you do put personal stuff in, but like, from a boundary perspective, literally, like, and we mentioned it earlier, but like at the beginning of a dinner, or at the beginning of a holiday, or at the beginning of a whatever it'll be, we will say, like, no work talk, and we both stick to that.
Yeah. Unless, obviously, don't get me wrong, if there are times where we know, right, say we're going away for a week, right, what we're going to do is on Wednesday morning, we're working on Wednesday morning.
Mm.
If there's stuff that you need to do, we just kind of get it. We pick a time, and we kind of stick to that. We don't deviate from it, because one, it helps you to be a bit more, I suppose, but it helps us to be a bit more flexible in terms of what we want to do outside of work, so we can go and do or tick off the things. But it also keeps us very focused.
But we don't always work at the same times either.
No.
So we have we do have that where we split. Like, it's not like, well, I'm working, so you've got to be working. And that is one thing that's really important, actually. Like, there is no games, there is no point scoring, there is none of that. It is like,
I worked longer than you.
There is
it just
no.
And I do think it's something coming on from people that are still either within their own businesses or they're in their own careers, is that if you're coming home with work and you're trying to find that balance of like the work-life balance, is actually set yourself at, right, as soon as I come through the door, that's it type thing. Or in your house, you have a certain area. Like, for example, I know Danielle, who's on the call, she has a shed, a work shed. And that's her office. And it could be that, right, well, you have one place in your house, and that's where that's your boundary. That's your
nobody comes in nobody comes in that, but when you're in there, you're working or whatever. But I think, we don't always work the same times. Like, but it's about communicating that. Like, that's the most important thing with all of this stuff has been communication. Like, it's not a shed. To be fair. It's a full
log cabin.
It's a beautiful office space. But so I think the boundaries are so important. It's if anybody was to ask what makes it work, it is 100% strong boundaries, strong communication. End of.
The communication side of things is like, when you're pissed off, tell them.
Yeah.
Like,
and we do, and regularly.
We're like, don't get us wrong, we've had some great success over the last 18 months, but at the same time, it's been some absolute flops. Yeah, like, it's just, sometimes it just doesn't work, and I think you've got to find that either that niche or the product that works for the people that you're trying to help. And if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Like, everyone's new to doing things. The communication style that we've always had is very open. We've never, for the 17 years we've been together, it's always been like that. We've never. Yeah, but one thing I think that also changed when we started working together was there's also like there's no space for blame. If something goes wrong, it goes wrong, and it's just like, well, what are we going to do to fix it? It doesn't matter. Nobody in the world, and I had this conversation with a client yesterday. Nobody in the world goes out to do something wrong any day. Like, nobody's going out to be a shit person, to do a shit job, to not be the best person that they can be. They just make a decision. They do the thing that's the best that they can do right at that point. That might be impacted by whatever's going on around them, whatever. But not many people anyway, I don't think, are intentionally going out to do a shit job of something. So if something hasn't quite gone to plan and somebody else is annoyed at it, like, nobody in the world wants to be told, you've done a really crap job of that. Why have you done such a crap job of that? Like, because who does that help? Who does it help? How does it get anything better? It's great, it's to give feedback and say, do you know what? I think we could do this better next time, or, let's try and do this. But that's the other thing as well. One, always looking back at yourself too. Yeah. Like, whenever something goes wrong, I'm like, am I not? And I find myself saying this all the time. I don't think I'm communicating very well. I don't think I'm getting the point across that I want to do. It's not that you're not listening or that you're not hearing. It's how can I change the way I'm saying this? How can I take responsibility for what I'm doing? Yeah. So that you can hear it in a different way or whatever. So I think not the whole blame thing is just that's never gonna work. No. So again, boundaries. Yeah. So we're actually talking communication boundaries. So all right, let's talk a bit about then lifestyle and all the travel and all the adventure, because it's such a huge part of it is the reason, actually. It's the reason, isn't it? Yeah. That we did this. Like, from like a career perspective, with a very, successful career that had opportunities coming out my ears. Even when I wanted to shift into coaching, had corporate opportunities coming out of my ears again, but decided to do this simply because it was the point of having leave is not enough for us anymore. Like Tom mentioned earlier,
it's going to be the first time in 7 years that we get to go back and see our friends and family who are all over the UK and not have to rush it into 5 days or 7 days or a week or something like that. And like we got to a point where we would have to have a party because we couldn't get everybody in the same room or we couldn't get to see everybody that we wanted to see. And so
basically any excuse for a party.
Well, yeah, any excuse for a party as well. But we're now traveling, adventuring, doing all of those things. The freedom to have a Negroni in every country, whenever, wherever, Jess. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Meeting amazing people on the internet like Jess, and then just crashing their country and going to see them. That's part of it is the main reason about why we're doing what we're doing.
Yeah.
Like,
I think when we first talked about living abroad when we first moved in together, so that'd been like 2009, and originally we were so kind of short-sighted in like we're just going to go to Canada. Like none of us have been to Canada.
Neither of us have been to Canada, and this is a thing, right? This is a freaking thing in the UK. I don't know what it is, and we found it as well, like with friends and other people that we know. It's like, okay, we want to move abroad, we want to live abroad. Okay, well, we'll live in Canada or Australia.
Yeah.
What is this? Like, why are they the two places? Like, it was like there was no other thought of anywhere else on earth. How can we move to Canada or how can we move to Australia? And I was like, I didn't actually particularly want to move to Australia. And Canada was a more, like, I don't know, I fancied that even more. And we just spoke about it for ages. And we spoke about it for ages and never did anything about it, actually, did we?
Well, no, because I think we kept talking about it even when we got to London. And then 2015 kind of came about and the trip to Dubai came about, and Canada is too cold. Yes, we agree. And that kind of opened our eyes a little bit more into, oh, right, there is actually other countries apart from Canada and Australia we can move to. But I originally when we first moved to London in 2012, moving from Yorkshire to London, that was a huge thing because I was
but what we've done is we've just progressively snuck a little bit further away.
Yeah.
I think I spoke about that when my mum was on here. Like the first move that we ever made was 20 minutes down the road. Then we moved an hour away. Then we moved 3 hours away in the UK. Then we moved a 8-hour flight away to Dubai. Then we moved over to Peru. We were like just progressively getting further and further away. And everyone's like, you can't get any further away. Stop going so far.
I think the next, which
moon.
Well, no, it would be as far as Australia, but it's just too far. A 13-hour flight, which is what we've got now, is probably the limit. I think one because of Sasha. We want to.
I thought she was going to come and pester and come and say hello, but she's fast asleep. Chris has just put a question there. How have you found the challenge of adopting to different lifestyles, cultures, languages? Danielle's just hit the nail on the head there, right? Languages is something people ask us all. Let's start with that one all the time.
Yeah.
Honestly, just fuck it. You've got Google Translate these days. We're slowly learning. We get the basics, and when you're chucked in somewhere where they don't speak any English, you just learn. You just learn to get by.
Obviously you can have lessons as well. And when we knew that we were moving to Peru, we were doing Duolingo, so on our phones, trying to learn as much Spanish as possible.
But what Duolingo was teaching us was to say things like "my grandma is a carrot," and that's funnily enough never come up in a conversation since I've been here.
But for the first 2 weeks of Peru. We were living in Tara's company put us up in a hotel for a month, and so Tara would go to the office during the day, and I would just kind of potter around and do whatever I wanted. But the problem is that I didn't know how to ask for things like in a shop. So if I wanted to go and get some lunch, I couldn't eat any, so I had to just go and just grab a Snickers.
No, you would only get things that you could point at.
Yeah, so
like chocolate. I was like,
chocolate. Just grab a bar of Snickers, and that was all I had for 2 weeks until I learned.
But he didn't dare ask for a sandwich or something like where you had to actually.
I probably knew how to say it.
You did. I think you did. Like, that was the thing. You actually did, but you didn't have. It was the confidence, and that's the thing with languages. Most of the time, it's the confidence. And if you've got the confidence if you don't care if you sound like a dick, and I would put this to you, like anybody whose second language is English and they speak to you. And have you ever in your life thought, oh my God, you are so stupid for getting those words wrong. You don't think that about somebody else, and nobody's thinking it about you either. So
And also
just give it a go.
Just touching on that about the people learning English. English is incredibly hard to learn compared to
since we started learning another language, you start to realize about how weird things are in English compared to like in Spanish. Everything is phonetic. So if you can see the words written down, you pretty much know that you're pronouncing them right, because everything is literally as it's written. It's phonetically spelled out. English, not like,
No.
not at all. And it's much more difficult. But yeah, so I think that in terms of language, lifestyles and cultures, like.
So I think that the first one would be a good example is when we moved to Greece. So we've gone from a Peruvian culture, which was everyone kind of, I suppose it was like a later thing, but because we were working, or Tara was working, we weren't really experiencing going out for dinner at 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. Greece is very
a later
culture, and it's something that we had to learn to adapt to.
So naturally, hello, Sasha's might come and join us. We are both early risers, so we would get up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. Like generally, that would be at 5 or 6 o'clock. We'd get up, and it was like, well, there's nothing open at that time. I can't get access to coffee. I can't there's nothing even open at that time. There's no point in waiting. And then if we're not going out for dinner till 9:30, then it's too early. So we just adapted all of our schedules. And again, like people say, I couldn't do that. And I genuinely thought like I'm in like 5 a.m. wake up, 9 p.m. bed person. And I just thought that was the human that I was. It took me about 3 days to adapt, and that was it. It's sorted. Right. Okay. Well, that wasn't so hard. And then we moved to Argentina, and it's like next level. Like, restaurants don't even open until after 8 o'clock. Most people go for dinner at 10, 11, like silly o'clock at night. But we've just adapted to it.
When we were in Mendoza for Christmas, we had a steak at 1 a.m. And people were still coming into the restaurant.
If you want to know how to get indigestion, that is it.
It's just very, very peculiar. When we first arrived, we went to a restaurant and we booked a table for like 8:30, thinking, oh, well, it must have been open for a few hours. We were the first in there. They were still setting the tables up. Yeah. And then we left at, say, 10:30, and people were just coming in, as in, like, it was just, 10:30 is just a normal time to go for your tea.
Yeah, but man, like most, so there's the timing things is like adapting to those types of cultures. There's people are different everywhere, and that's a really interesting thing for me. And actually, I feel like it impacts on your experience so much. Yeah. So, like, finding countries where the people generally are your type of people. And I had a bit of a difficult time in Peru, because generally Peruvians are quite passive and they're not really, really direct, whereas I'm a very, very direct person. So I found that quite a clash, and it quite difficult, to get a straight answer, or, and it's done with the best intention, like, not to upset somebody, and it's just the way they communicate. And I found that very, very difficult. Whereas when I came here to Argentina, it's like everybody's very direct and very clear about what they mean and what they want. So that kind of fits me better.
I also think as well that even from an expat lifestyle, the people that you meet as an expat they're all on the same page. They've all gone through the same challenges. We've all gone through problems getting the visas and that type of thing. And I just think it allows you to be a bit more patient, I think.
Yeah.
Because you're meeting people from all over the world and different.
Tolerant is the word.
Yeah, tolerant.
I think.
Because someone's like going to Greece and they're so laid back. It's crazy. Peru was, when we lived in the apartment, if we ever had any problems with the apartment, the guy will, I'm coming. Never told you a day. Like,
or a time.
I'm coming. And it could be between 1 hour and 10 days. And that's just how they are. It's like very much like, it's just mañana.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah. So I think having an open mind is the place to adapt. And honestly, like, my patience is that's actually the thing that's grown my patience completely. Yeah. Like, there's few times when you can lose your rag, but generally, like, it's that appreciation. I think once you've started traveling, that appreciation that people are different, things are different. And honestly, the hardest we find, both of us, the hardest thing we find is coming back to the UK.
Yeah.
Because And I don't know if it's, I don't know what it is, but there's just a level of frustration, and we'll I'm sure we will see it. We'll definitely see it when we come back. But it's just, I don't know. We actually get most frustrated there, and I don't know if it's because it's where we're from, but
I don't know. Like I think there's also a bit of a mindset shift since we've moved abroad. Is that I've personally like tried to change my mindset completely so that to moan less.
Yeah.
Over like the last 12, 18 months, because I think it's just really easy just so people just have a fucking moan. Like you come home from work, you're like, oh, it's fucking shit. Oh God. Or you're in a traffic jam or something like that. Jesus, there's a positive in everything. Like,
but also, and also, if you want to do something about that,
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing I think the reason that your mindset's shifted is because over the last however many years, every time we have a problem, we just fucking do something about it.
Yeah.
Like, don't moan about it. Get off your ass and do something to change it. Like,
if something is affecting you in a negative way, you either physically, emotionally, mentally, do something about it. Like, there's no point in literally sat on your ass. Then I know it's the brain's, like, I'm not going to go into the science of it, but the brain actually thrives off feeling negative. It actually, like,
it's the default. Actually, your brain default goes to negative.
Yeah, and it's like, Jesus, for us to complain that when we're in visa struggles and things like that, then I have to kind of like, you do have to physically take yourself back and go, yeah, but I'm here.
Yeah,
I'm in Argentina.
And it's not that we don't ever like.
No,
we're human beings. We're human beings. You're gonna have a moan at something very occasionally, but it's like it's never strung out. It never lasts a very long time. Like, but I think that's the thing that we struggle with. It's a cultural thing in the UK for sure. This like the moaning culture is something that we notice in the UK when we come back.
But I do think it's like, especially in the UK, like it's a for us when we say we get frustrated, again, maybe because we haven't lived there for 7 years.
Yeah,
it's a culture we just don't know anymore. Maybe that's it.
Yeah, and it's weird that we feel like we fit in the least when we come. Like when people, oh my God, how do you adapt to, like, that's a really great question, Chris. Like, how do you adapt to a new culture? I found when I was in the UK, I never ever felt like it was the right place for, like, forever, in fact. And one thing that I realized is that the weather impacts my mood and my whole personality so much. And there's something, since I moved away from the UK, I genuinely have become a different human being. I'm nowhere near as angry as I used to be. I'm nowhere near as, I don't know, like, there's something in the weather for sure, but it's that thing about like finding what works for you, and also understanding that what works for one person is not what works for another. And I remember sitting at a conversation between some friends, and it was at our wedding actually, and one said to another, like, somebody who was living in the UK, and they're like, do you not want to go and, like, travel the world and live somewhere else and try something? Like, surely you closed your mind if you just stay in one place. And she was like, no, I absolutely love living here. I love being close to my family. I love all of that. That is the thing that lights me up. And she knew that full well. And I loved it. Like, I'm not the person to say, oh, you should just go and travel. You should do all of these things. No, you should just do what you fucking want to do and what feels good for you. And if you know what that is, that's the key. It doesn't matter what it is. Know what it is that makes you feel good and that is your thing. And, chuff anybody else who says otherwise. I
think there's definitely some people will always find maybe an excuse not to do something. Like, I would love to have a six-pack. I'd love to have a good rig.
What?
But
what am I going to lean on? That's not going to be comfortable.
But I also love to have a beer, a steak. I love a Mackey's.
Who will we place Sean Paul Belly on?
Exactly. So you need to find something that is right, like that you enjoy. So, like, there's a phrase that actually was coined by a personal trainer called James Smith called touching your future. So if you want to have those nice holidays and things like that, actually plan for them. Don't just sit there and going, I wish I could. Go and do something about it. And if it's not something that you can afford right now, go to the next best thing. Like, whether that is, I don't know, a weekend in Butlins with the kids or whatever. But whatever that is you really enjoy, do that thing that you can do. Maybe it's just like that 1% or 2% change. So
yeah, I gave an example yesterday when I had a money training inside my membership. So we had some guest speakers come in, and we spoke a bit about this, and it was like, how can you have a piece of the thing that you really want? And we like to do this all the time. If you can't afford the full thing that you want, so say you want to go spend 2 weeks in a luxury hotel in the Maldives, but you haven't got the budget for that right now, how can you get as close as you possibly can to it? And that might be, instead of going for a 1 week cheap holiday, you go for a 3 night somewhere in a standard of a hotel that's better for the same price. You've got less time, but you've got more, like you've got a feeling of that luxury that you want to touch or that you want to have in the future. And it's very difficult for your brain to go backwards once you've experienced that, once you've done it. And it's kind of part of what we've done with this life as well. We just kind of went in and did what we can. And like, you know, we moved to Argentina specifically because it's an extremely low cost of living for a high standard. And we knew starting a business was going to be financially difficult at the beginning. Like we knew that, and we planned for that so that we can actually enjoy a lifestyle that is still aligned with us. And we would, you know, we definitely like to be living in bigger apartments or, you know, traveling more or whatever. But it's like, how can you just get the piece of what you need as close as you possibly can right now and then work up to it?
I think people also forget that, like, we're our mid-30s and stuff like that. You've got another 30 years left, really. Like,
you aren't you on late now?
Oh,
late 30s.
Yeah.
You're on the other side of 35 now.
Is that 36? Is that what happens? So I'm in, my late 30s. Chris must be 40 now. So, and I think people forget, it's like, just because you're not getting it like right now, like the touching your future or that luxury and stuff like that, doesn't mean that it's not going to happen. But I just think you just need to change that way of thinking. It's that, okay, it's not happening at this moment or in the next 6 months, but it could happen in 12 months. It could happen in 18 months. And I think it's having that mindset shift of actually looking to the future, and all for being present. I think it's something that is important to enjoy your time now, but actually think about, right, well, if I actually want to do that, how do I do that?
Yeah.
So
all right, I think we've nailed travel and adventure there.
Oh, and just be organized. Like, honestly, if you've got a 20 odd kilogram dog that you've got to travel around with you, who
does that? Who takes?
You just got to be organized. That's it.
Who takes a dog around the world with them? That's one of those things though. Like working out what's non-negotiable for you.
Yeah.
Like for us, it is taking. Like we pick destinations based on where we can easily transport Sasha to.
Yeah. Like,
though her dick behaviour over the last couple of days has made I keep threatening to leave her places.
But she's coming back to the UK, which would be nice.
She is coming back to the UK. Which what is interesting is every country we've lived with the dog has been a warm country. Yeah. And she's never been wet. She's never been in the rain.
No, we've been very lucky and to hide I think for ourselves as well. I don't know. I think when we go,
I think I'm going to melt.
Dissolve, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to melt when we come back and we get rained on.
But yeah, so she's never experienced cold weather or rain. So that'd be interesting for 5 months.
Yeah. All right. Any other dirty secrets? I think you've been really, really conservative and kind, which I'm very, very thankful for. Unlike my mum, unlike Danielle, you've been kind.
I don't think there's been an opportunity to like rinse you about the amount of times you've thrown up or after too much booze or what else could have said. I think you've done all right.
Hey, that's it. That's the biggest compliment I've ever had.
You've chose well.
Well, when you're packing all of my belongings to move from one apartment to another, or sweeping my hair up from the floor.
That's actually something. Is that we live with 4 suitcases. Currently, the other 20 are in Nina's loft. But I think, that's something that.
Danielle's raised a good point. What about the fact that she'd be dead without you? Yeah, and I've spoken about this quite a lot publicly recently, but we should talk about that. So I always talk about like having your shit together. You know, people always think that I've got my shit together, or you know, especially if you're a coach, or you should have all of your shit together. From a career and business, and that's actually mainly what we've spoken about. But from a life perspective, I'm an absolutely rubbish adult. I'm a rubbish human being, like adulting. And Tom, like from being able to use a key in a door, but that's because my fine motor skills aren't very good. To just like Tom constantly is reminding me not to step in dog shit. Like I would say, and to be fair, Buenos Aires is full of dog shit, but I would say at least 5 times a day, he's like, shit, dog shit, don't stand in that shit, there's shit there. Like, because
I'll be the one that have to clean it up.
Yeah, that is true.
So I'm just helping myself.
That is true.
I'm touching my own future.
not having to clean dog shit off my shoes. Yeah, but it is like you do constantly look after me.
Yeah, but I do think that the roles changed. I think in London and Dubai, I think you were the one that was very organized. Yeah. You kind of organized everything, the banks and
the travel is the biggest one. So I spent all of the time, like Tom would never even have a look in about planning travel, and now that is all you do all of the travel planning. You do all of, like, I have not booked a flight in 6 or 7 years. I don't know. Like all of the flights that we do, everything. Tom does all of that. And yeah, but it's just like the general stuff. Like washing, like people may be interested to hear that I haven't done any washing for
a long time.
5 to 7 years, maybe. I haven't.
Washing up as well.
Wash it. Like I don't wash Tom washes all my clothes.
And it's not that Tara's like a precious princess or anything like that. I just think
you're addicted to laundry. I think we should talk about that. You have got a laundry fetish.
Nah, I wouldn't say so. I wouldn't say so.
Like they have to be hung out in the most specific way. Like if one peg is in the wrong place. So I just don't even bother. Like sometimes I try to help, to show willing.
When we lived in Dubai, during the summer, the humidity is like 100%, 50 degrees. So you put wet washing out and it comes back in wet. So Tara, I don't know, it just wind me up. I'd be like, why are you putting it outside?
Yeah, you do all the washing, you do all the washing up, all of the, like even when we moved our Airbnb the last couple of times, like packing up all of the suitcases. Like
that's
everything.
a challenge.
Everything.
But I think I was very lucky in Dubai to have a job that allowed me to do life.
It was more flexible.
It was very flexible, and I think I've just kind of grown that in some way so that we can.
And a lot of people, like even when I was on a call yesterday with a client, and we changed the time, so I had to have my lunch whilst I was on the call. And well, at first I sat down and a glass of water appeared, and then a cup of tea appeared, and then my lunch appeared. And she was just like, "Oh my God, I need a Tom. I want someone to come and bring me all of the things." You do all of those things, like you just do all of those things.
Yeah.
It's what's interesting is you think those things are a relatively standard thing to do, but they're not. If you were to ask most people, lots of people don't. Like I know how lucky I am that you do all of those things for me. Like not everybody gets that from a partnership. They don't.
Yeah, but to be fair, you've fed me up for 17 years from a skinny 8 stone runt to what I am now. God knows what now.
This is a great project. It's been a great project. You started cooking last 2 years ago. 2 years ago. Like Thomas never.
It sounds like a big thing. Like I think when people, I'm a fucking hell, 34-year-old man.
It's not been allowed. Like I was always in control in the kitchen. Like anybody who knows me knows that I'm obsessed with cooking, hosting, feeding people, and very control freaky in the kitchen. And so he was never allowed. And the couple of times he was allowed, to be fair, it was dreadful.
Oh yeah, it never came out well.
But now he's much improved, and he cooks me food all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah.
New business, maybe.
Maybe. Okay, I think we've got all the questions. And I think, we're only on the hour as well. I think before you reveal anything else, it's time to wrap this up. So thank you so much. And if you are here, I always forget to say this, I should say at the beginning. If you were here and you were here to the end, let us know, have a hashtag replay so I know you were watching. And we'll be here again. I will be here again next week, the same time, 12 p.m. UK time. And I'll be announcing the guest later in the week. It's a good one. So thank you very much, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.